Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com.
Hi, this is Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, sitting in for Leo Laporte on the Tech Guy podcast, first heard on the Premier Radio Networks. This is episode 830, recorded December 11th, 2011. Enjoy! This episode of the Tech Guy is brought to you by the Epson Workforce Pro, the world's fastest two-sided printer. Engineered for productivity, it delivers high-speed, automatic, two-sided color printing, copying, scanning, and faxing to keep your business running at full speed. Plus, you'll save on ink. The Epson Workforce Pro. Check it out at Epson.com. Well, hey, welcome. It's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek and online editor of HomeTheater.com, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy, who's wrapping up a week in Paris, France, attending Le Web, a conference for Webites. Not to be confused with Luddites, of course. Leo is anything but that. Anyway, I'm sure happy to be sitting in for Leo while he's gone. And today, Sunday, we're going to be talking all about home theater. What else? I'm the home theater geek. You can, of course, call and ask questions, and I sure hope you do, at 8888 Ask Leo. That's 888-827-5536. And don't worry if you hear something that you can't write down, you're driving or something, otherwise indisposed, shall we say, because James DeRuvo is taking extensive notes and will be posting all of that on techguylabs.com, where you can also join our great family-friendly chat room with lots of your fellow geeks who might very well have answers that I don't. I don't know it all. I know a lot, but I don't know it all. So, like Leo, I depend on the chat room, who yesterday provided me with some answers that were very timely and appropriate, and I was able to pass on to our callers and our listening audience. That is you. So thank you so much for joining me today, and we're going to have a lot of fun talking about home theater. I thought I'd start out today talking about what's now and what's to come in the world of home theater. Of course, 3D is pretty big these days, and I've talked about it a lot on the show. And Leo and I, as any regular listeners know, disagree on this point, shall we say. Leo is not a big fan of 3D. He thinks it's a fad, and it's going to go away, and doesn't really like it too much. I have a slightly different opinion. I really enjoy it as long as it's done well. And that's the caveat that's so important, because it can be done very badly. And I think when it is done badly, people experience the problems that we hear about with home theater. With 3D, pardon me. Headaches and nausea and so on. But that really happens mostly when 3D is done poorly. When it's done well, I think it can really enhance the movie-going experience. And so I am a big fan of it when it's done well. And that depends more on the content than it does on the technology per se. So if you have a 3D TV, it's not the TV's fault if things aren't feeling good or looking good. It's the fault of the content. And so I encourage you not to dismiss 3D out of hand simply because it's 3D or you've had some bad experience with it. Give it another try. Try it with a different disc, a different program, and you could very well find that you find something that really is enhanced by 3D instead of detracting from the story. Now, I know there are a lot of 3D haters out there who will simply just dismiss it and say, nope, don't want it. And that's fine. The problem, it's not really a problem, but most TVs you buy these days, at least in the mid-range to high-end, are going to have 3D as a feature. It's simply another feature on the TV, and you can use it or not, just like any other feature. For example, LCD TVs have this feature called frame interpolation. These are the LCD TVs that are designated as 120 hertz or 240 hertz, and they actually create new frames in between the frames that are coming in from the satellite box or the Blu-ray player or whatever source you happen to be using. And that the reason they do that is to sharpen up the motion. On an LCD TV, things in motion can be somewhat blurry. And so if you create these new frames in between the incoming frames, it can sharpen it up. But there's a side effect. It's called the soap opera effect. And it makes movies in particular look like they were shot on video. And a lot of people really object to that. I don't particularly, because I much prefer the sharper motion. But a lot of people do. And so you can turn it off. It's just another feature. Turn it off, turn it on, whatever is your preference. Another feature that we're seeing in virtually all TVs these days, certainly down to perhaps not the very lowest end, but for the most part, and in virtually all Blu-ray players as well, we're seeing online streaming. We're getting our content from Netflix, from Hulu, Vudu, Amazon. Most of the networks are also providing their content online in a streaming fashion, and you can get it directly into your TV or from your Blu-ray player or from your game console, Xbox 360, PS3, Nintendo Wii, or from your computer if you happen to have a computer in your home theater. You can get this streamed content from just about any source these days, and I find it very convenient. But the unfortunate part is that it's simply not quite up to the quality of Blu-ray or even broadcast TV. So while you can get whatever you want whenever you want, the quality of what you're seeing anyway, and what you're hearing too to some extent, is not quite up to some of the other sources. So again, it comes down to a question of quality versus convenience. And only you can make that choice for yourself. I find sometimes the convenience is preferable, and I'll accept the lower quality of the image in order to see what I want when I want. But then when there's something critical or something that I really want to experience in the highest possible quality, I'll go to Blu-ray. Or in the case of broadcast TV, certainly shows that are first run, I'll probably watch them on broadcast because I want to see it as soon as I can. So the variety of sources that we have for audio-video content is expanding greatly these days, and the online component is now another feature that is nearly ubiquitous. And I, for one, am glad to see it. So that's what we have right now. What can we see coming down the pike? What's coming in the future? Well, a couple of things. One of the things that we've seen now some movement toward is 4K. Now, what does that mean? Well, it refers to the resolution of the picture, how many pixels across versus how many pixels down the image contains. Now, Blu-ray and high-def TV typically have 1920 pixels across and 1080 or 1080 pixels down. So that's called 1920 by 1080. And sometimes that's referred to as 2K because 1920 is close to 2000. True 2K is actually 2048 across. That's the 2K that you see in digital cinema. When you go out to a digital theater, you're likely to see 2K, which is 2048 across. But now, if you go to certain theaters, certainly in my hometown of Burbank, California, the big theater there has Sony 4K digital projectors, which have 4,096 pixels across by 2160 down. So that's 4 times the pixel resolution of HD. Now, it's, people talk about HD as seeming so clear, and it is, I would have no doubt. but 4K is even more so. You can get up much closer to the screen, and that's going to be a really good thing. I'm Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Well, I hope you're enjoying Scott Wilkinson on the Tech Guy. I came back all the way from Paris just to tell you about my Epson printer. That's how much I love my Epson Workforce Pro printer, the world's fastest two-sided printing. It works with your iOS devices. You just print right over the Wi-Fi. It's got Wi-Fi, it's got Ethernet, it's got you can connect USB. You can connect to this printer anyway. It's an all-in-one, so it means faxing, high-speed, automatic two-sided color printing, copying, scanning. Keeps your business running at full speed. I mean, I think this would be the perfect gift for your business. Stuff it in a stocking. No, it's probably too big for the stocking. Put it under the tree for your business. You're going to love this thing. 580 sheets in the feeders, more than a ream of paper, so you don't have to constantly go back to the printer and feed it. You should see the cartridges. They're giant. It means they hold a lot of ink, and because they hold a lot of ink, the Workforce Pro is really economical. The ink cartridges will save you 50% per page versus color laser. You also save by double-sided printing, and I think double-sided printing looks better, too. In fact, we got to start doing that. We're printing only on one side. That's wasteful. We're throwing away paper like that. The Workforce Pro, using the mobile apps on tablets, is fast and easy. iOS 5 has it built in. I could just go on and on. I just want you to check it out. Go to Epson.com this holiday season and give your business the gift of great printing. Epson.com and tell them, I want to see the Workforce Pro. The 4540 is the specific page that we like. The 4540. Actually, I have, you can't put this, can you put in a picture? Okay, so put in a picture of the 4540. Like that. They're amazing. The Epson Workforce Pro. Thank you, Epson.com, for supporting our Tech Guy podcast.
It's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek and online editor of HomeTheater.com, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I was getting so into my my monologue there in the last segment, I totally lost track of time, and the stop music just came right up upon me. So let me just finish that quick thought, which is about 4K. And how we're seeing it starting to see it in commercial cinemas now, and we finally have a 4K display available for the home, which is reviewed on HomeTheater.com. It's the Sony VPL VW1000ES, a 4K video projector, which lists for $25,000. Which you might go, yikes, yikes. $25,000. Well, the digital cinema projector that Sony puts into theaters, including the ones near my home, well over $100,000. So it's a significant drop in price. But then the other question is, where can you get 4K content? Well, from your digital camera. That's about the only place right now where you can get 4K content. Studios aren't releasing it. It's not being broadcast. It just takes too much bandwidth. So I want to just alert you to the fact that is coming down the pike, and eventually, I think in a few years, really, it's going to take a while for a new format to be developed to deliver 4K on disc, if it even is delivered on disc. Whether or not it'll be streamed is another question because, again, of the bandwidth issues. But if you have a digital camera and you take photos, you can display them at full, glorious resolution on this beautiful 4K projector, which also upconverts Blu-ray and other 1080p content to that 4K resolution. So that was just to finish that little thought. Now I'd like to jump on the phone lines and answer some questions. Let's talk to Roger in Lomita, California. You're on with Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek.
Hey, Scott. I've got a problem for you. I'm deciding between two TVs, the Panasonic VT30 55-inch or the Elite 60-inch.
Oh, wow. Well, that is a tough choice. And you have the money to buy the Elite, I guess, huh?
Yeah, well, I found it as low as $4,500. So
really? Wow.
it's getting down there a little bit.
Getting down there a little bit. Okay, that's still quite a bit more than the VT30.
Right. The VT30 right around 22.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's what I would expect. Exactly. Well, I got to tell you, the Sharp Elite looks fantastic. It really does look great. It's an LED backlit LCD with what's called local dimming, so the dark parts of the image can get darker because the LEDs behind that part of the image are dimmed, and the bright parts of the image can get brighter because the LEDs behind those parts of the image get brightened, which gives you a greater contrast ratio, lower black levels, a gorgeous, gorgeous picture.
Oh, great. How's the sound of it?
Well, I have to say I have never heard sound from the inside of a TV, that is the TV's own speakers, that I've liked at all.
Okay.
So if you're going to spend $4,500 on the Elite or $2,200 even on the Panasonic, I would definitely put them together with a surround sound system, an external surround sound system.
Okay, well, in the room that they're going, I can't do that, but I could do a sound bar.
Well, okay, all right. Then I would do a sound bar, because that's going to certainly be a big improvement over the internal sound of any TV, TV. Now, in terms of which one, let me ask you a couple questions. Do you watch during the day? Do you have good ambient light control in your room?
It's going to go in a living room, so there is some ambient light issues. So
okay. And do you have people watching to the side very often?
Well, that's the thing. I was going to, it's going to be installed on the fireplace, which is kind of in the corner of the room. So I was going to get a pull-out mount so I can angle it any angle in the room to get, optimum viewing.
Okay. All right. Well, you've touched upon one of my pet peeves, I'm afraid, which is mounting a flat panel over the fireplace. Normally speaking, I don't recommend that, because even when you have a tilting mount that brings the TV out a little bit and angles it down, you still have to be looking up at this TV, and it's not comfortable on your neck. It's not very ergonomic. In fact, I call it, and some headphone rules in the chat room is also calling it, the worst place to put a TV. Is there any possibility you can put it anywhere else?
No, but fortunately, above my fireplace isn't really that high. It's really low to the floor, so the mantle is fairly low. So you would have to look up a tiny bit, but it wouldn't be a neck
a neck killer. Okay. No. All right. Well, certainly getting a mount that tilts it down a little bit would be good, or tilts it to the side so that people off to the side, if you're watching off to the side, wouldn't be off axis. The Sharp certainly has a lot better black level. No question about it.
It does, okay.
No question about it. Now,
well, the other thing I liked about it, also it's a 60-inch, the Panasonic's a 55, and it only weighs 73 pounds.
And it consumes 5 times less power than the Panasonic.
I have a Kuro in that's my TV right now, and you can feel, if you get up next to it, you can just feel the heat.
Oh, man.
Off of it.
I have a Kuro as well, and that's exactly right. And the Panasonic will be the same. Now, the Sharp does have this frame interpolation that I was talking about earlier.
Okay.
And so if you really object to the soap opera effect, you can turn that off, but then you will have less sharp motion. The objects in motion will be a little blurrier, a little fuzzier. So you have to take that into account as well. But if you have ambient light, some ambient light in the room, you can angle the thing around. You like black level, which I really do. The Sharp is a great set, and I certainly...
Did you review it?
Yeah, we did. It's on our website, hometheater.com, as is the VT30, so you can look at both of those there.
Hometheater.com, a free website?
Absolutely. Oh, no. Well, you can register if you want to post comments on articles, and we can post. We offer comments on every article, reviews, features, everything, blogs, and you have to register to do that, but it's free.
Oh, okay, but I can get the review of both of these on there for free.
Absolutely.
Oh, great.
There's nothing on the site that costs anything, so even if you don't register, you can read the reviews.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the call. Okay, let's see. Let's go to Steve in Somerville, Mass. You're on with Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek.
Hi, Scott. How are you today?
I'm great, thanks. Thanks for calling.
Sure. Thanks for taking the call. Anyhow, so I'm I've just recently purchased my first flat-screen TV.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm retiring a TV
30
that's
seconds.
2 days older than dirt, and I am wondering what you might suggest for accompanying components. If there's a benefit to getting, say, the Samsung Blu-ray player, which also have the smart TV apps which come with the TV, if it would be too redundant. Clearly, in that case, I think it would be. But if I would like to get a Roku box or something like that.
It's a very good question. Let me answer it after the break. This is Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Clear.
Thanks. Oh yeah, nice and mellow. It's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, coming at you in place of Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Kyle Benham spinning the tunes, and he's putting me in a mellow mood. Just in time for a special guest I have for you this hour. His name is Grover Crisp, who is the Executive VP of Asset Management, Film Restoration, and Digital Mastering for Sony Pictures Entertainment. Hey, Grover, thanks so much for being on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. Now, Grover, you and I met a couple weeks ago at Sony Pictures, and we were looking at some of the work you were doing. You gave us a tour of ColorWorks, which is the mastering facility at Sony Pictures, and gave us some idea about the process of restoration of classic films, which is one of the primary things that you do there, right?
Yes, that is one of the things that my department handles at the studio, along with the mastering for the new titles, of course, that go out on Blu-ray.
Right, exactly. I mean, you've restored many classic films such as Easy Rider, Dr. Strangelove, The Bridge Over the River Kwai, On the Waterfront, many others, including the movies with monsters by Ray Harryhausen, one of my favorites. Give us a brief description of the process. How do you go about restoring these movies, some of which must be in pretty bad shape?
Well, unfortunately, of course, that's the case with films that are, 50, 60, 70 years old. They've seen a lot of wear in those early years of their existence, and is one of the reasons, of course, we have film restoration.
Sure.
Nowadays, as you mentioned, at ColorWorks on the studio lot, we actually take an all-digital approach to this work, which is different from the photochemical processes we used to do years ago. And I think it's a great benefit in terms of, the ability to do things we couldn't do before, to fix problems we couldn't fix before. And a lot of this is at a high resolution. I heard you talking earlier about the differences between 2K and 4K and pixel count across the field. That's really a benefit to us because 4K is essentially the resolution of a 35 millimeter film frame, or at least it's what you need to capture that anyway.
Yeah, I've gotten that question a lot, which is, what is the equivalent resolution of actual film? And I think it has to do with the film grain, does it not? The individual particles of photochemical stuff that react to light and create the picture.
Well, of course, those are the building blocks, so to speak, of your image. The grains of film, just like the pixels in your high definition, display. But what we found from a lot of testing, not just us but other organizations over the years, is that you have to scan at a high enough resolution to really capture all that's there, whether or not the inherent resolution is of that level or not. It's basically a concept of oversampling, so that you've really captured everything.
Did you ever capture higher than 4K, like say 8K?
We're working on a film right now that's a 65 millimeter origination, and we scan that at 8K. And actually tested it scanning at 2K, 4K, 6K, 8K, and 11K.
Oh, wow.
Did all of to see what we really needed to do to capture it and what would really work best. And for that film, which is Lawrence of Arabia, it was 8K.
Oh, man, Lawrence of Arabia. That's going to be awesome. You're working on that now, right?
We hope so. We're working quite hard on it at the studio right now, and it should come out on Blu-ray next year. It's the 50th anniversary, and we'll also play in theaters in 4K on the projectors you were talking about earlier. So it's going to be quite an experience, and will look, I think, quite good on a big screen in 4K projection.
And how long is the process of restoring a film like Lawrence of Arabia, which is a long movie? How long does that take you?
Restoring 2 films, of course, because it's 4 hours long.
4 hours long, yeah.
But, every project is a little different. It depends on the severity of the issues. I think you came by the studio, actually, we might have shown you some of that.
We saw a little bit, just a couple clips from Lawrence of Arabia, and it was looking mighty good.
Right, but it is getting there and is going to look good, but it has some really severe physical issues with the original negatives that are quite difficult to correct, but I think it's going to be a good project, when we're done.
How does restoring an old film like that, where you have to deal with fragile elements, compare with mastering modern movies?
Well, of course, you don't have to fix things like torn frames and scratches that run for hundreds and hundreds of feet throughout a film on a new film. That's certainly the main difference. But I must say the modern post-production process, which is called digital intermediate process, where you shoot the film, whether you shoot it on film or shoot it digitally, and then you either scan the film or just migrate the digital files into an all-digital workflow. And then you go through the process of correcting your color and your contrast and so forth. It is quite similar to what we do for digital restoration right now. It is kind of the model, only we have a lot of things to clean up, as I mentioned, as part of that process. And as far as how long it takes, Bridge on the River Kwai and the Guns of Navarone took upwards of a year in that workflow. And a lot of that is going back and forth and testing and figuring out what works to correct a lot of the problems.
Sure.
And it's just a lot of work, fairly intense work, and there's a great crew there at the studio at Colorworks to handle all this.
Now, a lot of movies are being shot digitally these days. I mean, there's no film involved at all. Does that change the process for modern films?
It sure does. There are lots of kinds of processes right now, whether you record to a hard drive or record on a physical tape, like a high-definition tape. There are a number of processes. Film is still being shot as well. But the post-process of getting to the final creative end is still the same in terms of the digital workflow that we showed you at the studio.
Right. And, boy, you've got some serious hard drive space there at Colorworks. I think there's at least one hard drive farm that's a petabyte.
Well, you have
1,000 terabytes.
Sure, you have to have a lot of space. On any given current production now, as far as what's shot, it's anywhere from 100 to 300 or 400 terabytes that's actually captured. And then when, for a final film, in 4K at least, on average, it's a good 10 to 12 terabytes just for the final
50 seconds.
Picture part. So it's a lot of space that you have to deal with and a lot of data that needs to be moved around within a building. And as you know, that can be really challenging.
Sure. Got a couple questions in the chat room. One is, do you correct the errors and defects before or after the 4K scan? I would assume after.
It's after.
Yeah, it's in the digital domain.
Yes, we also keep the raw scans as well, so that we have that to go back to should some in the future the process get better. I mean, it's not possible to correct every kind of a minor defect or major defect in a film nowadays, so that it's completely invisible to the viewer, sometimes, you can't fix things like you would like.
Understood.
And,
Grover Crisp, thank you so much for joining us. This is Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. There it is. Lawrence of Arabia. Very good. We were just talking with Grover Crisp, who's involved in restoring Lawrence of Arabia for Blu-ray and theatrical release. And I can't wait, for one thing. That's an incredible movie. And there's the music spinning from Kyle Benham, our master DJ. This is Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek and online editor of HomeTheater.com, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. And before we had our special guest, I had Steve on the line from Somerville, Massachusetts, and he has been kind enough to wait for me to finish answering the question. Hey, Steve, welcome back.
Thanks, Scott. How are you?
Hey, good. Thanks a lot for waiting. I think your question was, as I recall, you've got a Samsung TV with smart apps on it. Should you get a Blu-ray player with smart apps on it? And isn't that redundant?
Yes, more so. I want to be able to hook up a feature home network as well to access local media.
Mm-hmm.
Would you suggest something to pair with a first-time flat-screen TV owner?
Well, the flat screen, do you know the model that you have?
I do. It's the UN40D, as in Dennis, 6000.
Oh, the D6000. Excellent, excellent TV. I reviewed that one myself and found it to be very good. That TV will access your network content, and a Blu-ray player that you get would access your network content. That is one of the things that you're going to find these days, is that you're going to have redundancy. The TV is going to be able to access online content and network content, and the Blu-ray player is too. I'm often asked which one's better, where should it be. I personally prefer it in the player, but it doesn't really matter. You can get it from either place and get it, and then that's totally fine. And it's going to be difficult, in fact, to find a Blu-ray player that doesn't have it. So,
right. I think so far the benefit I can see is using both devices with the same remote, but I don't know if there is anything featured in one that's missing from the TV or...
Well, if you get a Samsung Blu-ray player, it's going to have much the same functionality as the TV. I sometimes recommend getting a different brand of Blu-ray player from the TV because the implementations are very different. The user interfaces are different, and one brand will give you access to some content that another brand won't. So in order to expand the amount of content and the number of sources that you have available to you, it's often a good idea to get a different brand. Now, I have to say that I prefer Samsung's internet access user interface and the products that they provide, the services that they provide, more than Panasonic, generally speaking. So you wouldn't be wrong to get a Samsung Blu-ray player in that case. Okay, let's talk to Mike in Michigan. You're on with Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek. Welcome.
Hey, Scott. How you doing?
Good, thanks. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm talking to you.
How kind of you. How can I help you?
Well, my parents often disagree about what they want to watch on television. So they want to add another TV in where he has his computer.
Mm-hmm.
But I suggested that the new flat screens could do both monitor and computer or television.
Yep, they sure can.
Right.
Virtually all of them have a VGA type input, or if your computer has HDMI out, that would be even better.
Well, it is an older computer, so it has the VGA.
Okay,
but,
so most TVs have a VGA input. You'd want to make sure of that before you buy one.
Yeah, I've been checking that. Do you have any suggestions for like a model or a brand?
Well, let's first talk a bit about LCD versus plasma, because there are those two camps, and generally speaking, for TV and movie watching, I prefer plasma, generally speaking, not in every single case. But virtually all computer monitors these days are LCDs. And that's probably a good idea in the case of a computer, because on a computer screen there are a lot of static elements, things that just stay in the same place for long periods of time. And that's not a good thing for plasmas. So if you're going to be sitting right in front of it, in front of your computer, I would say an LCD is the better way to go. An LED illuminated LCD is preferable to a fluorescent illuminated LCD, and those are becoming less common these days. LEDs are becoming by far much more common. So I would say an LED LCD TV, probably you're going to be sitting closer to it than a regular TV. So unlike my normal recommendation of getting a larger TV than you expect, in this case it may not be such a good idea. You don't want to be so close to a huge TV that you have to be scanning around all the time to see the whole picture. As far as brand... Sorry, go ahead.
Another question is, since you do sit further away from a television set and sit closer to the monitor, does that make a big difference in what you would get?
Well, only in the sense that when you're sitting closer, you don't need as large a TV for the TV to what's called subtend a viewing angle of roughly 30%. Plus the fact that as you get closer to the TV, you start seeing errors more, artifacts. You can even see the pixels themselves on a larger TV. So it's another reason not to get such a large TV in that case, depending on how far away you are from it.
Okay. Because I was thinking it might help my dad because his vision isn't what it used to be. So it might help him that way as well.
Sure, might very well.
You could put the images and icons a lot bigger that he could read them a lot easier.
Sure. Well, again, just about any LED LCD TV will have a VGA input. Make sure it does. My favorite brands are Sony, Samsung, Vizio, and LG.
Okay.
All righty?
Yep, thank you.
Thanks so much for the call. Okay, let's see. How much time do I have left? Very much? Enough for another call? Could it possibly be? I'm not entirely sure until Kyle tells me.
Oh, sorry, you do. A minute and a half.
Minute and a half. Okay, that's good. Let me go then to this line right here. Warren in Huntington, West Virginia. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Scott. Thank you. I wonder if you can record streaming TV on your computer.
Ooh, that's a very good question. It's not something I have ever done before. So I'm going to turn to the chat room and see if they know the answer. It may not come up immediately, so keep listening to the show.
I'd like to record it in high definition if possible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, either on a CD, maybe they make high definition discs. I don't know, or in some kind of a memory device.
Well, it would certainly be onto your hard drive. There's no question about that. Now, whether or not then you can move it onto, say, a recordable Blu-ray, that would be high definition, or a recordable DVD, which would be standard definition. You're specifically looking to record streaming content from, say, Netflix or Vudu or Hulu or something like that.
So I can keep it for years, long after the streaming.
Right, exactly. There's copy protection issues, and all sorts of issues like that may make it difficult. I'm being told in the chat room that it is possible. I'll see if I can get more information and talk about it a little bit later. This is Scott Wilkinson, the Home Theater Geek, in for Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Well, a good day to you. It's Scott Wilkinson here, the Home Theater Geek, an online editor of HomeTheater.com, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy, who at this moment is wending his way back from Paris, France, where he attended Le Web. Mais oui. But in the meantime, it's just you and me in the radio talking about home theater, and we're having a grand time doing it, too. Just want to jump right back into the calls here because we got several to take care of, and I want to answer as many questions as I can. All you have to do is call that number, 8888-ASK-LEO. That's 888-827-5536. And, of course, today you're asking Scott, but still use the same number. Let's go to Alan in Simi Valley. You're on with Scott Wilkinson, the Home Theater Geek. Hey. Hello.
I have an older HD TV.
Okay.
And I recently scanned for new channels over the air, and it knocked off two of the local channels, Channel 5 and Channel 50. They are now coming in on the RF frequencies, but I don't have the program guide anymore.
Well, you're talking about over the air, right? So you have an antenna on your roof, or an antenna in your house or something?
I have an antenna on my roof. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you did the rescan.
Yeah.
And a couple of the channels that used to be there aren't there anymore.
They're there. They're in a different spot, and I lost the channel guide. I'm just getting the RF frequencies now.
Ah, well, I will say that in some cases, channels do move their frequencies. Most over-the-air high-def TV channels are in the UHF band. They're all RF. They're all radio frequency signals being broadcast from a broadcast tower someplace high on a mountain. And so they're mostly in UHF band, but a few of them are in the VHF band, the lower frequency band. So these two stations might have changed their frequency.
Well, the thing is, I have one of those decoder boxes for the old CRT TVs, and on there, they're coming in right where they were before.
I don't know. I'm not sure I know what you mean by an old decoder box for a CRT TV.
I have those decoder boxes to change the HD into the...
one of the converters.
Converter.
Huh. Well, that's...
Or they're coming in where they're supposed to. Same antenna, and I have the index and everything.
Huh, but not in your HD TV.
Not on my big TV, and there's nothing on the net about it. It's real old. It was made in '06, and apparently I'm the only one who's having this problem. I may be the only one who still has this TV.
Well, what is the TV?
The brand is Polaroid, but it's some
my
Chinese
goodness.
manufacturer.
Sure, it must be a rear projection TV.
It's a LCD.
Yeah, but it's not a flat panel, right? Or maybe it is.
It's a flat panel.
It is a flat panel. Polaroid made flat panels, I guess, and I think RPTVs for a little while, not very long. Boy, I must admit, I don't know what to tell you about that. I'm hoping that maybe somebody in the chat room might know something about it. I've never heard of this problem before. If it's coming in correctly into your digital converter box and not into the TV, and then something happened in that TV, and I can't imagine what it might be. I mean, you've stumped me. Let me think about it. Let me ask the chat room, see what they have to say about it, and perhaps they might have an answer, and I'll bring it up if I can. In fact, while I got you on the line, Vogue in the chat room says maybe connect to the net and update the TV's firmware. I don't even know if that TV has internet connection, does it?
No.
No. So, I think that you're. I don't know the answer. That's a stumper to me. Sorry. If I think of anything, or if the chat room comes up with something, I will sure let you know. So let's see here. I forgot to answer the question about the converter box, or about the DVR, about recording content from streaming. And we had a couple of things in the chat room. A couple of suggestions. Opage, for example, captures over the air, but we were really talking about streaming. And if I go back into the chat room and see if I can find what it was that somebody recommended. Fraps, F-R-A-P-S, is one solution that might work. There is an issue of legality here, and that's something that you can take advantage, or you can take into account or not. I know that the streaming companies don't want you to do it. They don't want you to record their stream onto your hard drive and then burn it onto a Blu-ray or something like that. In fact, as Leo often says, the studios consider us all criminals. I'm not sure I exactly agree with Leo on that. They're trying to protect their content, their property. I mean, it's our property when we buy it on Blu-ray, and I do agree with Leo that we should be able to make copies of it in that case for our own use. I don't want to be considered a criminal for making a backup copy. But the studios have addressed that with a digital copy, which when you buy a Blu-ray, very often you get what's called a digital copy, which means you can put it onto a portable device. And Ultraviolet is a new system that basically lets you access the content that you've bought, the Blu-ray or whatever, from the cloud onto whatever streaming device you want. So they are trying to address that issue. And they've done it in a couple of ways, as I've said. But the issue of recording the stream is a tricky one, and it's not easy to do. Then somebody else in the chat room also mentioned that you're going to burn up a lot of hard disk space, and that's true. On the other hand, of course, hard disk space is cheap these days. I mean, you can get a 2 terabyte drive for under $100. So that isn't as much of an issue, I think, as certainly it used to be. Anyway, it's not an easy thing trying to record a stream like that. And that is about all I have to say about that. So let's move along here to Dwayne in 29 Palms, California. Welcome to the show. It's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek.
Hello?
Yes, hi, Dwayne.
Hi.
Hi, how can I help you?
Is this Scott? Or?
That's me.
Hey, Scott. I've been recently trying to look to buy a 55-inch TV, and I was looking at the Sony LCD and the Sony LCD LED, and the price difference is, quite a bit, and it's the brand name, the Brava, I guess, BRAVIA.
Yeah, Bravia is what they say, yeah.
Bravia. And I'm wondering, I know that an LED is an LCD.
Correct. Good for you.
But I'm wondering, is there that much better of a picture with the LED than the LCD?
I think so.
And so you think it's, besides the fact of it being thinner, you think it's, it's worth the money to go ahead and get the LED instead of just the LCD?
Yep, I do. And part of the reason is that LEDs can be dimmed down. And I'm not just talking about backlit LCD. I'm talking about edge-lit as well. The dynamic control of the LEDs can definitely be done better with LEDs than with fluorescent tubes, which is what conventional LCDs are. And you can get a better black level that way. The only problem with edge-lit LCDs, which are what most Sonys are, is that in dark scenes, the illumination can be kind of uneven. So that's one strike against it. Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, it's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek and online editor of hometheater.com, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. This portion of the Tech Guy Show is brought to you by DSL Extreme. For high-speed internet at an amazing price, use DSLExtreme.com. So we've been talking a lot about a lot of different things today, and in the chat room, I mentioned earlier that hard disk prices were so cheap, and the chat room has been ablaze with some information that I actually didn't know, which is that floods in Thailand and probably elsewhere have damaged the hard drive market, the hard drive manufacturing and production process, so that hard drive prices are actually on the rise. So it's not quite as good as I said, but it's still not bad. Just saw here somebody in the chat room said a 2 terabyte Seagate for $169 at Best Buy in an ad today. So it's still not very expensive, but it is going up because apparently of the weather-related issues. Okay, let us move on to Chip in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Scott. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. How can I help you?
Great. Oh, hey, I'm listening to you on the Squeeze Box. It's wonderful. I don't have my computer turned on. But anyways, I got a question on picture-in-picture.
Go for it.
Why? I know you had the Simple Guru a couple of weeks ago.
The Simple Tech Guru, yes, Barb Gonzalez, very, very knowledgeable person.
Yes, and she was. I had the Sony Google TV also with me at that time. I bought it and I returned it. And one of the features that it has on there is a picture-in-picture, but it doesn't work most of the time with if you had a. What I wanted to do was put my computer on the big screen and have the TV on the picture-in-picture so I could monitor a game or something while I'm working.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't do that. It does.
Now, was this the actual television, the Sony television that had Google TV service built in?
Yes, that's the one. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
that's the one she had also.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you had the computer connected to the TV. How?
Well, first of all, it doesn't have a VGA, so I had to go out and buy a converter.
Mm.
And then the converter, after I plugged it in, it wouldn't recognize the signal. And so you can't plug in a VGA to it or a computer to it.
Mm.
But then, having said that, I tried to put a DVD on there and then watch it game on a picture-in-picture.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't work either. Just resorted back into the main picture. But I called Sony customer support
Mm-hmm.
and asked them, "Is this a upgrade problem? Are you going to have it in the future where I could do something like that?" They didn't seem to know. I think they once again they contracted tech support to some other country.
Yeah.
So,
an all too common problem these days.
right. So, but you're the man. You're the man who knows about these and the pulse of the industry. I mean, in the 1990s, everybody had picture-in-picture. It was wonderful. You could have 8 picture-in-pictures. You could watch 8 stations at one time.
Well, it's true. It's true that is a feature that has kind of died away, at least in televisions themselves. Now, the reason is that television manufacturers have realized that people aren't using the internal tuner of the TV much anymore. It used to be that TVs had internal tuners. They still do, but it used to be that they had 2 internal tuners, which would allow you to have one channel in the main picture and a different channel in the PIP window. But most TVs don't have dual tuners anymore because people are getting their service from a cable box or a satellite box or now even a streaming box.
And I guess most people feel that they could they feel most people could record it and watch it back later.
Well, certainly if you have a DVR, you can do that. But a lot of satellite boxes and cable boxes have the picture-in-picture built into them. They have more than one tuner built in. So the picture-in-picture function has moved out of the TV and into one of your set-top boxes. So the fact that Sony advertised, I guess, or spec'd that they have picture-in-picture in that TV might have been erroneous. I don't know because I haven't tried that particular TV.
That's correct. Yeah, it does. They have somewhat a working portion of it. I've since returned to Sony, and I've gotten a Philips Internet TV also.
Okay.
And that one doesn't even have picture-in-picture.
No, not whatsoever.
Right.
You need to do that picture-in-picture thing outside of the TV. Nick H30 rather in the chat room says Slingbox works well for that. He watches his TV in a window on the computer in the other room all the time, so that might be one solution.
Is he saying that there's actually you could adjust a Slingbox somehow if you plug it into your TV? It'll show up in a picture-in-picture. It doesn't have to be a function of Sony TV or Philips TV.
Correct. And that's what I'm saying, too, is that most cable boxes, satellite boxes, Slingbox he's talking about here, do have picture-in-picture capabilities, and they will send a signal to your TV with whatever you've selected in the main window and then whatever you've selected in the secondary window of the sources that are connected to that device.
Okay.
So in the case of a cable box or a satellite box, it'll be 2 different channels from the cable or satellite service. In the case of Slingbox, it could be any one of a number of things. So that's unfortunate, but
Okay.
that's the way it is these days.
Well, Scott, if you ever talk to the titans of industry, would you please ask them to bring picture-in-picture?
I do talk to the titans of industry once in a while, and I certainly will be happy to mention that. Thanks so much for calling.
Thank you, Scott. Oh, can I just give a quick plug to my Squeezebox radio show? If anybody wants to Google Squeezebox radio show.
Sure, go for it.
And I just want to be able to get other people's experience with the Squeezebox, how I love it, and I like to find tricks. A lot of times I can't even get the answers from customer support, so it's almost like we have to help ourselves.
Well, that's certainly a very good way to do things. And
Google Squeezebox radio show.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Bye.
All right. Let's see. I think I got enough time for one more call.
40 seconds.
40 seconds. Oh, that may not be enough. I can maybe get the question in, and then we'll talk about the answer after the break. So here's Andy in Yorba Linda. It's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek. Welcome. Hello, Andy.
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air.
Hi. How are you, Scott? Quick question, so you go into commercials, but I have less than 2-year-old Sony Blu-ray player, and a couple of weeks ago, less than a couple of weeks ago, we had that windstorm. I live over here in the San Gabriel Valley.
Oh, it was terrible too. Hang on one second there, Andy. We'll be right back with you. It's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. So we were talking to Andy, who lives in Yorba Linda, California, and he experienced, as I did in the last week or so, very high winds. We did not lose power at our house, but many people around us did. Pasadena and environs was particularly hard hit, and people were out of power there for a week. How did you survive the winds other than the one problem you had there, Andy?
Actually, I live in Arcadia. I'm right now in Yorba Linda.
Oh, I see.
So
okay.
Arcadia
took it pretty hard. Yeah. Were you out of power for a while?
We were out of power for over a week.
Holy smokes! Wow. Okay. So, what was the problem that came up?
Well, I have all my equipment on my theater and one of those power surges. You could just in case that something goes wrong, you could just flip the fuse. But the Sony Blu-ray didn't survive. So the day after I wanted to test everything out, the Blu-ray didn't turn on, and it ran me about $100 when I first bought it. So I'm trying to see if I could save myself from buying another one. I don't know if there's a reset button or try to look around it. I haven't opened it or anything of that nature.
No, I wouldn't open it up. No, I wouldn't do that. Is it under warranty?
Actually, it only had a 1-year warranty.
And so
I didn't buy any extended warranties. I didn't think it was worth it, but now I know it should have.
Yeah, well, I generally don't advise buying extended warranties because it's usually not worth it, especially not with a $100 product. But,
correct.
And that was a windstorm of the century, or at least of the decade, I think they called it. So
it sure was. It was actually pretty scary.
It was pretty scary. I agree, and. So that's not something that you could easily predict, and I don't know what to tell you. I don't think there's any real reset button. It must have just gotten some kind of surge. If not when the power went out, then when the power came back.
That's another reason. Yes.
Yeah, that's generally when the surges occur and when the most damage occurs. So. I don't know if did you go around turning everything off after you had lost power? I mean, physically, maybe even unplugging?
Actually, no. Everything came back on when the power came back on. I didn't have anything unplugged, so everything up, refrigerator, the rest of my TVs in the house, and all that other good stuff.
Yeah. Well, good thing.
That is the only thing that died.
It's a good thing that it wasn't the TV, because that'd be a hell of a lot more expensive.
And just I don't know if I could throw in a quick question at you. I just if you have the minute.
Sure.
I last week I just purchased, because I was listening to the previous caller. I picked up a Sony Google TV 46, and some feedback on it. If you have any information on it.
Only that. Google TV recently upgraded its service significantly, and from what I understand, I haven't looked at it yet, but from what I understand, it's a whole lot better than it used to be. Google TV, when it first came out, I was very hopeful for it, and then it didn't pan out. It just didn't work very well. There were a lot of content providers that were blocking it, and setup was tricky, and the user interface wasn't as good as we had hoped. And apparently they've just now done a major update. So if you haven't done that yet, depending on when you bought the Sony Google TV, make sure that you've got the latest firmware. And it should be a good experience now. It certainly has a great potential, Google TV. I really thought it was going to be the thing, the next big thing. It was going to give you access to everything that is online. It still doesn't do that, but they've improved it tremendously. So I think it's not you didn't make a bad purchase there.
Yes, I got it off of Best Buy, and it was I was trying to save some money. So I got it off of a open box deal. It normally runs about $900, and I got it for like a little over $700.
Wow, great! A 46-inch.
I got a good buy on that.
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. Just be sure to take it out of torch mode. Put the picture mode into cinema or movie. I forget what Sony calls it. And ideally use a disc like Digital Video Essentials or Spears and Munsell high definition benchmark to set the user controls properly, and it should look great.
I haven't actually sat down and really get into it as far as get familiar with it, but I like it so far.
Good deal. I'm afraid this other problem is a problem, and fixing it is probably going to be more expensive than just buying another one. I'm sorry to tell you. So that is the sad truth of it from the windstorms of Southern California, which I lived through too, and I've told the tale. So let's see. I know that Steve in Clarksburg, West Virginia, has been waiting for a while. Hey, Steve, welcome to the show. Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek.
Hey, Scott, you're doing a great job.
Oh, thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Great feeling, but I want to challenge you with a tech guy question.
Uh-oh.
Although video related.
I'll do my best.
I am a cartoonist who animated a 30-second commercial for a contest and uploaded to YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like 852 by 400 or something like that resolution.
By 480 probably.
Yeah, 480.
So basically, roughly DVD level of resolution.
Right. It was an AVI, and it was uncompressed, and I guess that's maybe the root of the problem is why it took 6 hours to upload. Nice.
Well, I can't believe it was uncompressed. Totally uncompressed video. Well, maybe I can at 6 hours. If it took 6 hours to upload, that may very well be. As Leo has talked about on the show, AVI is one of the wrappers around which into which, I should say, you place the video data. And typically that video data is compressed using MPEG-2 or some other form of compression. So if you didn't use MPEG-2 and just kept it at some sort of raw, uncompressed format, then yeah, it's going to take forever. So you really do need to compress it into MPEG-2 before putting it in AVI and then sticking it up to YouTube. That would take a lot less time to upload, I'm sure. So, did that answer the question? I'm afraid we must have lost Steve. Sorry about that, Steve. I didn't push any buttons here, but he's gone. Anyway, that's probably the answer to the question, is that you got to compress that video. And YouTube, of course, generally speaking, the video quality isn't very good, but you can also get it quickly and you can upload it quickly. So that is something to keep in mind with that. Let's see. Let us talk to Warren in Northridge, California. Warren, you're on with Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Scott. Thanks for taking my call. I wanted to know what kind of projector should I get for a classroom. I would just want to know, like, how many lumens should I get, what kind of type, LCD, DLP, LED, and also durability-wise, since it's going to be moved around a little bit, and it's going to vary in range of how far it's going to be from the wall, from 10 to 13 feet.
Sure. What's your budget range?
Well, I know the projectors get pretty high, so my budget's probably around $700-800.
Okay. Well, we're coming up to the end of an hour here, or rather the end of a segment, I should say. And so let me answer that at the other end of the break. It's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hey, it's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek and online editor of hometheater.com, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy, coming at you from Springfield, where... yeah, but which state? I always thought that was great on The Simpsons. You know, they never tell you which state it is. And Springfield is one of the most common city names in the country, so... I just love that. I love that theme song by Danny Elfman. Fantastic composer. Just really whacked out. Okay, let's see here. I was talking to Warren in Northridge, California, about projectors in the classroom. Warren, thanks for waiting.
Hey, Scott. Don't know if you heard my question before, but
I did.
I was asking for a projector for a classroom.
Right.
And what kind of type of LCD, DLP, LED, and one that can be kind of durable because it's going to be moved around a lot. And
Sure.
It's also going to be about 10, 15 feet away from the wall.
And you're going to just project it on the wall?
Yeah, the wall or probably a whiteboard.
Okay. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is you want it to be as absolutely bright as possible. So you asked about the number of lumens to get. As many as you possibly can. That is going to be one of the primary criteria.
Would you say about 3,000 would be enough?
Well, I don't know if you're going to get 3,000 for under $1,000. But, you know, when you're shopping for a projector, you just want to get look in your budget range and find the one that puts out the most light. That's going to be your first criterion. As for durability, they're all pretty good. I've used Optima in the past to good effect, moving it around, I mean. Epsons are also excellent, generally speaking. DLP, the technology doesn't matter that much. I think what you're really going to be, the primary criterion you need to think about is amount of light. Just has to be hugely bright. Beatmaster in the chat room is saying BenQ has some nice deals for schools. That's B-E-N and the letter Q. SoCal Ray Jr., my friend in Southern California, is saying DLP will normally have the most light out. And that's probably true because it's reflective. LCD projectors, which are the other inexpensive choice, the light has to pass through an LCD panel, and that's going to take away some of the light from reaching the screen. So DLP probably will be the best choice there. I would not get an LED projector. They make what are called pico projectors these days, which are tiny little things the size of a cell phone that use LEDs as the illumination source, but they're not very bright. That's the primary thing there. So I wouldn't get that. LED will last longer. Sean JS in the chat room is saying, don't LEDs last longer? Yes, they do. You're going to have to deal with lamps, replacing the lamp in the projector. But they don't put out enough light. I think you really need a lamp-based projector, probably a DLP. Just look for the highest light output you can in the price range that you're looking for, and that would be what I suggest.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for calling.
Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to you and to everyone listening. We're just 2 weeks away from the big day. Ho, 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 and all that jazz.
And Happy Hanukkah.
And Happy Hanukkah, of course. I would be remiss to forget Happy Hanukkah, which is right around the same time this year, as I recall. Okay, I'm going to move on to Tom in Thousand Oaks, California. Welcome to the show, Tom. Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek.
Hi, Scott. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
My wife and I are in the market to buy a new receiver for our home theater.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy at the store is really high on the Pioneer SC55.
Oh, yeah.
But I was looking on your website at the Integra DTR 50.2.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering if you have an opinion between the two. The downside that I saw was that Pioneer, the setup is not as intuitive as let's say the Integra from the review. So I was just wondering your opinion.
Well, I didn't do either of those reviews, so I don't have a lot of personal experience. The let's see, the Integra 50.2 has Odyssey Multi-Q, which is very good, and the Elite 57, which we reviewed, has home networking, Apple AirPlay. So in part, it would be what kind of features you're looking for. Are you interested in AirPlay particularly?
What really intrigued me was the internet FM or HD radio.
Oh, sure. Which is a great thing for getting radio over the internet instead of FM, regular FM or AM.
Right. AirPlay was intriguing. It looks good. I don't know how much I'd use it, but it's better to have it and not need it.
Yeah, I really like the Integra. I really like the Integra's Odyssey room correction, automatic room correction, which EQs your speakers and sets them up automatically based upon your particular room. And it also has dynamic EQ and dynamic volume. And dynamic volume is particularly nice because it evens out the differences between the TV show and the commercials. You know how sometimes you're watching a TV show and it's set at a comfortable volume, and then the commercial comes on and it blasts you out of your chair. Dynamic volume tames that tremendously. So that's a really nice feature of the Integra that I really like. On the other hand, the Pioneer has a lot. Well, they both have home networking, tons of home networking. So you're not going to get much difference there. Without taking a stronger, closer look at the reviews themselves, it's kind of a toss-up to me, to tell you the truth. Integra makes a fine product, and Pioneer does as well. I have a Pioneer in my own home theater. It's kind of an older one, but I'd be perfectly happy with an Integra as well. I wish I could give you a stronger recommendation, but sometimes, people come up with and say, this or that, and I go, well, they're both really good. If the reviews said that you said the Pioneer was easier to set up, or the Elite, or the Integra?
I got the impression that the SC57 was not very intuitive for setting up.
Well, that may very well be. I don't think you can go wrong either way. And
Okay.
if the review says that the Integra is easier to set up and that's important to you, I do sure like the Integra's feature set in terms of, as I said before, the Odyssey automatic room setup.
30.
Now, does one have a better throughput or whatever? We're going to be running HDMI in to our. We bought a Sony XBR HX909.
Excellent TV, sure.
But we're not running HDMI through our. We have a DSP-A1 from Yamaha, so it's more of an analog setup. So
No, yeah, I'd run everything HDMI through either of these receivers, and then HDMI out to your TV. It's going to be great.
Okay.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for the call.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
You bet. This is Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Well, hello there. Welcome. Come on in. The tech is fine. It's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek and online editor of hometheater.com, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy, who's on his way back from Paris, France, where he's been attending Le Web, a conference there to talk about what else? Le Web, and hopefully solve the Eurozone's problems. I understand he's been hobnobbing with some bigwigs there, including President of France, Nicolas Sarkozy. So I'm sure he'll have tons of cool stories to tell upon his return. Meanwhile, it's just you and me sitting here talking home theater. And I'm really happy to be doing it. I'm pleased and gratified and honored that Leo would let me sit in for him and host the show, where we are going to continue to take calls from people who have home theater questions for me. And if you have such a question, you can give me a ring at 8888-ASK-LEO. That's 888-827-5536. So let's just jump right back into the phones. I think Larry from Jackson, Georgia has been waiting a while. Larry, you're on with Scott Wilkinson. How you doing?
All right, Scott. You're doing a good job, man.
Thank you so much. How can I help you?
I've got a big screen TV, Mitsubishi 73-inch.
Oh, nice.
Nice. And I've enjoyed it nearly 3 years, as a matter of fact. And the tube went out one time, which, that's kind of normal after about 2 years, I thought. But anyway, I also have my laptop hooked up to it with the HDMI, and I watch Ustream on it and everything.
Sure.
But I know y'all record y'all's Ustream there. But I've got a show that only shows their Ustream, and they don't record it now. They did to start with. You may have heard of them, the Rick and Bubba Show.
Can't say I'm familiar with it.
Okay, they're out of Birmingham, but anyway, it's like a talk radio station. But they also, but they Ustream it every morning for about 4 hours on Ustream. Well, I want a way to record it.
Well, we were talking about that earlier in the show, and
yeah, I'll tell you what I have tried now. I've tried one of those. I don't know whether you're familiar with them or not. It's called a V-Beam. It's got a little UBS dongle.
USB dongle?
It's got the box over at the TV,
Uh-huh.
And then it feeds into my DVD recorder, and then I feed out of my DVD recorder up to the TV. Now, that does pretty good.
Yeah.
The sound is not coordinated. I don't know whether it's me or that V-Beam or not. But do you have any other suggestions besides that?
Well, I can't say that I do. Are you saying that the audio and the video are out of sync with each other?
Yeah.
Well, are you going through an AV receiver, or are you connecting directly from the laptop to the TV?
I'm connecting straight from the laptop into a DVD recorder.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then it goes HDMI out of there up to the TV.
Ah, so the DVD recorder, you said DVD recorder, right?
Yeah.
And you're recording the stream from the laptop directly onto DVD.
Right.
Well, that's pretty cool.
It does pretty good. It does a pretty good job.
Mm-hmm. That's one solution that I hadn't thought of for the caller we had earlier about wanting to record streaming content.
Maybe you might suggest it to him,
Sure. Well, I hope he's still listening.
Yeah, and but I was just wondering if we can come up with another way. I tell you what I've done. One time I actually have to do is I've got a Sony Handycam, and I record it straight off the screen.
Well, that's not something I would recommend. That's going to be pretty funky quality. That's like the people who go into the theaters on a first-run movie, the first night of a movie, and take their camcorders and try to record off the screen, and then that ends up as pirate DVDs in China. It's very poor quality, and you're probably not getting great quality either. As far as the audio and video sync issue, I don't know whether your TV has it, but a lot of TVs do. They have a feature that's often called something like lip sync, which lets you delay the audio with respect to the video. Because typically what happens is that video takes more processing power, and as a result, it gets delayed. And so you need to delay the audio in order to sync it back up. So do you know whether your TV has such a feature?
I went through all that, and I hadn't seen nothing like it. But this little dongle that plugs into UBS, it's not exactly a Bluetooth. It's a W Bluetooth or something or other.
Can't say I know exactly what you mean by that.
It's not Bluetooth. It's I don't know. In other words, the signal goes out over that, but it's called W something or other.
Well, maybe it's a Wi-Fi.
It's kind of like that, but it's not Wi-Fi.
Oh,
It's called W something or other, something like that.
Can't say I know what it is. I've got some some stuff in the chat room here that might be helpful. Let's see. Debut video capture software from NCH will capture streaming video. Nick H30 says, sounds like he has a video output card connected to the USB port. That may be. I guess this dongle that you're talking about is what's sending the data to the...
Yeah, it sends it to the V-Beam. Matter of fact, they've got a website if you want to check it out, Scott, sometime.
Sure.
It's called vbeam.com.
V-Beam, B-E-A-N?
V is in Victor.
Uh-huh. Spell it for me just so that we all get it right.
It's V, and then it's B-E-A-M.
Huh, okay. Well, I'll have to go check that out.
Yeah, and it's got all that, and it'll tell you all that how to try to. And like I said, most of the time it does okay, but sometimes, like maybe I'm watching a movie on the laptop, and it'll get out of sync with the sound.
It's a type of system that I've never had any experience with, so I'm going to have to go check that out.
Yeah, you look good up on the big screen, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much.
See, I'm feeding this stream now with the HDMI directly into the TV.
Oh, that's great. Fantastic. Well, I hope my audio isn't out of sync with my video at the moment.
But go, you were getting audio in the background. I think y'all caught what it was, didn't you?
Yeah, I think so. Well, listen, good luck with that. I'm going to check into that. I think that's a kind of an interesting way to go. I hadn't really ever heard of a system quite like that, so I congratulate your inventiveness. And thank you so much for that. So let's move on to Manuel in Corona, California. Hey, Manuel, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks, Scott, for taking my call. I developed a little problem with my plasma TV at the Samsung. I just started getting Netflix about 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
great, by the way, isn't it?
It's very nice. I'm in the trial program part of it, and all of a sudden, a couple 3 days ago, when I try to connect in, it says cannot connect to the internet. Please make sure your device is an active connection to the internet.
Yeah,
I restarted the TV and the internet connection, and it still doesn't work. And the Blockbuster works, but this one widget won't work.
It's Netflix. It's Netflix is what it is. I've had the same problem myself. I don't know why that happens. It happens more on Samsung TVs than on Panasonic TVs in my experience. And I don't know why that is, but it does happen. And it just comes back later.
Oh, does it? Because I hooked up to my Blu-ray player, and it plays through that.
Sure. It's a problem that I think is just Netflix. Hi, it's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Better watch out. Better take care. Better not shout. I'm telling you why. I think this is Michael Jackson playing Mama's Kissing Santa for Christmas. Oh, man. Hey, it's Scott Wilkinson here, the home theater geek and online editor of hometheater.com, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We're coming to the end of our broadcast day, and I just want to let you know that I'll be sitting in for Leo one more time this year on December 24th, Christmas Eve. Leo has decided to take that day off, and who can blame him? But the show must go on, and so I'm very happy to be sitting in. I'll be in the Los Angeles studios, not from here in Petaluma, unfortunately, but I have my own Christmas plans, so taking too much time away from that wouldn't be a good idea. But presumably I'll be wearing a Santa hat, and I might even have a bit bigger white beard, those of you who are watching me on the video stream. I've gotten more than one comment that I might be able to sit in for Santa Claus, and so on December 24th, I hope you will join me for another 3 hours of home theater and Christmas. Should be great fun. Okay, let's see here. Who have I got next? I got a few other people to talk to. I think I'm going to go with Kevin in Los Angeles. Welcome to the show. It's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek.
John?
Yeah, hey, Kevin. How can I help you?
Oh, hey, Scott. Great. It's great to be on the radio. My question is, I don't know if it's just me, but I just don't like the way the HDTV looks.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's too real. I guess.
Too real. Oh man.
When I look at movies from the 90s or early 2000s, they don't look like the movies I grew up with. They just look too real.
Well,
I was wondering what TVs I can get these days that's not HD or lower than 1080p. I don't know.
Well, not many, I'm afraid. You can at the very, very bottom of most TV manufacturers' roster of products. You will find some at 720p.
Is 720? I mean, 720. There's still HD TV, right?
Correct. Still an HD TV. I don't even know if you can even buy a standard def TV anymore. I guess you can in terms of a little portable one, but boy, that's I honestly don't know. HD is. You're the first person I think I've ever talked to who said that they didn't like HD because it looked too real. I mean, that's the whole point of HD, is to look more like you're looking out a window.
Well, for sports entertainment, I mean, yeah, that's for sure. But for movies, I guess it's meant to be fantasy, but it's not fantasy in my eyes because it's too real.
Wow. Right. Well, if you get a TV, an LED TV that's 120 hertz or 240 hertz, turn off frame interpolation for one thing, a feature in the menu system, and that will de-sharpen the picture a little bit, make it look a little fuzzier. I think a plasma is generally going to look more cinema-like, more film-like than an LCD TV, generally speaking. So you might want to consider getting a plasma instead of an LCD.
If I get a 720 LCD, would that look more like plasma?
No, not necessarily. And the problem I always have with 720p TVs is that most of the content, most of the high-def content that you're going to be watching, either from broadcast or from Blu-ray, is going to be 1080, not necessarily 1080p. That P refers to progressive versus 1080i interlaced. I won't go into that right now, but in both cases, there are a certain number of pixels that are in the signal, 1920 pixels across by 1080 pixels down. And if you send that signal to a 720p TV, it will downscale it. It will remove quite a few of those pixels, which will result sometimes in what I call, and what are called, scaling artifacts. The picture will get softer, which sounds like maybe what you want, but it could also result in jagged edges, particularly along diagonal lines, diagonal edges of objects that are in the picture, which I don't want to see that myself.
Yeah, I don't think I want to see any of those either.
No, I don't think so either. I guess I would say my first recommendation would be a plasma. Because I think that does look a little more film-like, a little less super sharp, super crisp.
Real.
Yeah, a little less real. Wow, that's quite an amazing perspective on things, I got to tell you. But hey, if that's what you want, I would say that. Or if you get an LCD TV, turn off frame interpolation for sure.
Isn't the plasma or the LCD, if you look at an angle, don't they kind of darken on the side?
LCD, absolutely. Well, they don't darken; they actually lighten. If you go off to the side, the black level, the deepness or depth of the black goes up, and the contrast, that is the difference between black and white, goes down and decreases. So if you go off axis from an LCD TV, it starts looking pretty funky. Whereas that doesn't happen with a plasma. That does not happen with a plasma.
So plasma is the one choice to go.
I would say that would be my recommendation.
Great. I'll get that to you then. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much for calling.
Bye.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to talk to Mark in San Diego. Mark, you're on with Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek. Welcome.
Hi, Scott. Thanks so much for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I have a 5.1 surround sound system in my family room.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, I have 2 speakers in the living room area, separate room.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also have 4 speakers outside.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking that I need to get something like a powered speaker selector so I can control those, especially those outside speakers individually.
You mean
What is your suggestion on something like that?
You mean turning on the speakers outside one at a time?
Not necessarily one at a time, but controlling those speakers outside versus my inside speakers, which I have, 7 speakers total inside, and I don't have enough inputs on the back of my system to control, to have all of my speakers plugged in at one time.
What kind of, I assume you're running them all off of an AV receiver, something like that?
That's correct. That's exactly right.
And your AV receiver has what, 7 speaker outputs, something like that?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Huh. So how do you have them set up? Do you have a switch there already?
I don't, and that's what I'm looking for. Is what I said. I think I need a speaker selector.
Yes.
To add in, and I just want to get your thoughts on, either a good brand of one, and does it need to be powered? Does it have to have its own amplifier, or how does that all work out?
No, they're typically passive. Let me get back to it after this break. Can you hang on? It's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hey, welcome back. It's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. And the music you're listening to now is written by my good friend Jeff Rona for the Beijing Olympics. And the opening sound you heard was a seashell trumpet. That is one of those big old seashells with the end cut off and blown like a trumpet, played by none other than yours truly. Whoop, that stopped all of a sudden. Here it is again.
Had to play the seashell.
Had to play the seashell one more time. Thanks, Kyle. Yep, that's me, standing on a bluff, overlooking the ocean, blowing my seashell trumpet. It's a great sound. I've got about 25 of them of different sizes, and you get a bunch of brass players together, start playing those things, it gets in deep. Thank you, Kyle, for playing that. I really appreciate it. I'm going to go back to Mark in San Diego. You back with us, Mark?
I sure am, Scott. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, you wanted a speaker selector, and there are plenty on the market that don't need power. They just pass the speaker signal on through and let you select one or the other. Monster Cable makes them. Pyle Pro makes them. Pyle. Pyle's big in car audio, and they do subwoofers and stuff like that. But there's a division called Pyle Pro, which makes speaker selectors. I actually have a Pyle Pro microphone mixer. Leo Laporte has here right on his desk a Pyle Pro stereo amplifier for his little orb speakers. And they do a good job. They make a fine product. Niles is another company. They're big into in-wall and on-wall speakers in the home. And so they make a speaker selector as well. I'm seeing them online ranging from, $27 to a couple hundred. So it depends on how many you need and so on. I'm a little concerned. You said your AV receiver doesn't have enough outputs to run all these speakers. How do you have them all connected now? Well, I guess maybe is he there? Maybe he's not there. Okay, well, I was concerned because if you have all of those extra speakers connected to the same outputs, you're basically lowering the impedance of that the receiver is seeing. Every time you connect speakers in parallel to a given speaker output, the effective impedance or resistance to electrical flow is lowered. And it starts wanting to draw more power from the receiver and starts making the receiver's amplifiers work harder. So I'm hoping that he doesn't have that he didn't hook things up that way. And you certainly using a speaker selector is going to be a whole heck of a lot better than that. Okay, let's see. Who has been waiting the longest? I'm going to go to line 4. Vaughn in Laguna, California, one of my favorite places in the world. Hey, Vaughn, welcome to the show.
Hey, Scott, thanks for taking my call.
Sure thing. How can I help you?
Okay, first, I have one important question and one small question after. But first, the most important is I wouldn't recommend a Memorex Blu-ray player because, like, I bought it and it was working for a year, and then it crashed. And what's funny about it is when it says that it plays DVDs, you'll pop the DVD in, it started playing the DVD, but it would skip all the time. So it's like it wouldn't, it wouldn't play the DVD at all.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I tend not to recommend off-name brands, and you might think, well, Memorex, that's not an off-name brand. Well, it's not when you come to, storage, RAM and memory cards and even blank DVD recordable media. It's a fine brand. It's a top-of-the-line type of brand. But when it comes to players, I can't imagine that they would be very good. Generally speaking, we were talking yesterday on the show about Samsung Blu-ray players, and a lot of people seem to have trouble with them. I haven't myself, but I've heard a lot of reports, so I'm not. I'm a little hesitant to recommend Samsung. Panasonic is very well regarded in terms of low-cost Blu-ray players. My favorite Blu-ray player. The screener call board here says you want really, really, really good Blu-ray. If you're willing to spend the money, Oppo is the brand to get. No question about it. OPPO. They make the BDP 93, which is $499, and the BDP 95, which is $999. And what's the difference? The BDP 95 has very much upgraded analog audio outputs, and it's really for the audiophile who's got a really good analog electronics. And the analog outputs from the BDP 95 are superior to those of the 93. But if you're going to be using HDMI, which most people will be using, then there really is no difference between them, and I'd get the BDP 93. Now, $500 is still a lot for a Blu-ray player when you can get them for $100 or $200, even the Panasonics. But you have expressed an interest in a really, really, really good Blu-ray player. And in that case, I can't recommend anything more highly than the Oppo.
I have a 3D TV, and this holiday I was actually going to look forward to purchasing a Blu-ray 3D player.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to know your suggestions on that.
Oppo BDP 93.
Okay.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
It'll do 3D beautifully. Oppo has great customer support. They come out with firmware updates every time anybody reports that a disc doesn't work in their player.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a no-brainer in my opinion.
Yeah, and one other quick question. I read an article yesterday online about 3D TVs,
mm-hmm.
and I don't know if you know too much about it, but I think there's one where they said they're trying to actually develop 3D TVs where you won't need the glasses.
Yes.
And I've heard that they've developed it, but when do you estimate that those will be coming out?
Well, I was going to talk about that in the opening segment of this show, and I didn't quite get to it. It's one of the things that's coming down the pike. There are a couple of things regarding what's called auto-stereoscopic 3D TV. That is 3D TV without the glasses. Toshiba makes one now. A couple of companies are working on it, but they're not very good. I can't say that they're very good because you have to stand or sit in a very particular location. And if you move off from that location, there are several locations you can sit in, like 6 or 8, well, probably odd numbers, like 7 or 9 numbers of locations around the TV. And if you sit between 2 of those locations, your right and left eyes are going to get the wrong image because they use what's called a lenticular screen on the front of the TV that aims light beams in slightly different directions so that they'll hit your 2 eyes differently. The effect is not nearly as convincing, and if you sit anywhere other than those particular spots, it's really not going to work very well. Now, my friend Gene Dolgoff, who's been on my podcast several times, claims to have a true holographic 3D display technology that does not require glasses. It's basically a black shoebox, bigger than a shoebox, but I mean that sort of shape, in which you can actually see 3D solid imagery. As to when that will be available, I'd say that's some years down the line. But that is the holy grail of 3D, not having to use glasses and not having this lenticular, weird autostereoscopic thing, but true holographic 3D. This is what I really am looking forward to very much. Until then, I much prefer the 3D TVs with the glasses. So did that answer your question?
Yes, and because I noticed like what's good about the 3D TVs is when you sit with the glasses, you can be in any which way direction you want, and it'll still get the effect.
That's exactly right. Thank you so much for the call. This is Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. Hi, Bill. Welcome back. It's Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek, sitting in for Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We were talking about 3D a moment ago, and I was saying that there will come a time when we have true 3D, without glasses, actual things, people, objects sitting there in front of you. And somebody in the chat room talked about, like Star Wars, like Princess Leia making her plea to Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I think it's going to be actually better than that. Because as you might recall, that image looked kind of, you could see through it sort of, and it was only monochrome more or less. And I think we're going to see some much better, truly holographic 3D in some number of years. Exactly when, hard to say, but I'm sure looking forward to that. Meanwhile, as I said before, I much prefer glasses to autostereoscopic 3D. And I just thought I'd mention really briefly that there are two types of glasses 3D that you can get at home. One is active glasses, which are basically two LCD filters on your glasses that alternately darken and lighten, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. While the TV alternates between showing you the right eye image and the left eye image, and the glasses and the TV have to be synchronized. And that gives you full HD, but it also gives you a very dim image. The other way to do it is with passive glasses, such as those you get at the commercial movie house, where you go to see a 3D movie at, say, IMAX, or Real D is the primary supplier of that type of 3D. And those glasses are much lighter, much more comfortable to wear, in my opinion, and you can get them with certain TVs from Vizio, Toshiba, and LG. And as I said, they're much lighter, much more comfortable, much less expensive, which is a big deal when you've got a family of 4 or 6, or you're having a Super Bowl party with 20 people over there. You don't really want to be spending $100 per pair of glasses for a Super Bowl party. So the passive glasses are much better in that regard. There is some debate about whether or not passive glasses give you full resolution or not. A recent study I saw indicated that it does, in a way. The problem is that the way passive glasses work on a flat panel, you have line number 1. You have the pictures consists of horizontal lines from top to bottom. And line number 1, line number 3, 5, 7, all the odd-numbered lines are processed in such a way that they reach one eye, and the even-numbered lines are processed in such a way that they reach the other eye, which gives you the stereo image. But you'd think that only gives you 540 lines of resolution in each eye. Well, this study that I read recently indicates that there's a fusion that goes on in the brain that combines them together and gives you full resolution 1080 lines of 3D image. And Conoco in the chat room is also mentioning there's no flickering with passive glasses, and that's true. Some people complain about flickering with the active glasses. So that's another problem with active. I'm going to be doing some side-by-sides pretty soon, I think, between active glasses and passive glasses. I really want to get to the bottom of this and see which one is a more effective 3D technology. But in the meantime, I just thought I'd mention that to you. And so we can now move on. Let's go to George in Virginia. That's line 4. Hey, George. Welcome to the show. Scott Wilkinson, the home theater geek. Hello, George. There he is.
I want to buy a flat screen plasma, and the guy at the store was telling me that if I take it out of the store and put it on its side and lay it flat in my car, that it would cause damage to the plasma, that it would give some kind of a modeling, and that they would not, I could not return it. It would damage it.
Well,
Is that true?
It's certainly true that it could happen. I have also been told by manufacturers not to put plasma TVs on their back, essentially,
right,
and transport them that way. So I don't. I've never experienced it myself because I have never transported a plasma that way, and I don't think it's inevitable, but it's certainly possible. So I would take some care, either get a high-roofed SUV maybe, or borrow somebody's truck if you don't have one, strap it down so that it's in a vertical orientation, and take it home that way. I do recommend that you do that.
Okay, so I either have to find a different vehicle or go LCD, right?
Yes, LCD won't have nearly the same problem in that regard that plasma might. And again, I have to say might. It's not 100% sure that it's going to happen. But yeah, if you want to get a plasma, you would have to get a different vehicle, or maybe the store will deliver if you pay them a little extra.
So keep it on edge. All right.
Yeah, I would keep it on edge, a plasma, definitely.
Scott, I got one more question, if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
I saw a Panasonic Blu-ray disc player that says that it has Skype built in if it's a Panasonic camera.
Correct.
Have you heard anything about that? Could you tell me more about it?
Absolutely. Panasonic has implemented Skype on their TVs and Blu-ray players. You need a camera that I believe you can buy from Panasonic, and there might be a Logitech model that they've certified and approved and tested to make sure it works. But in fact, on my podcast a couple weeks ago, I had on the CTO of Panasonic North America, Eisuke Tsuzaki, and he was on my podcast using Skype from a Panasonic VT30 plasma.
Wow.
So it works great, and I think it's a wonderful thing to do if you have family or friends far away and you want to interact with them in real time. It's basically video conferencing, and it worked great on my podcast, so I have no reason to suspect it wouldn't work under other circumstances. The camera is a pretty wide-angle camera in order to bring in, your whole family into the picture, as it were. So it's not something that you can really, zoom or change the angle of the camera, but I think it's a great idea.
Okay, so it's a special camera. I can't use like a Panasonic Lumix.
No, you have to use one of their specifically tested and certified cameras, and you go on Panasonic's website and they'll tell you which ones will do it.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Scott.
My pleasure. Thanks so much. And boy, in the waning minutes of the Tech Guy show for this date, December 11th, it's hard to believe that time has just flown by, and I've had such a wonderful time on the show. I want to thank everybody for all of their help. Of course, everybody in the chat room, Leo's brain, this weekend Scott's brain, thank you so much. And John at the controls here, and Kyle at the controls in L.A., Gina screening all the calls so beautifully, and Kyle, I have to say, also picking the music, just impeccable, quite incredible. I couldn't do it without all of you, and I thank you so very much. Once again, I'll be back on as the guest host on Christmas Eve, December 24th, so please be sure to tune in then. We'll have a lot of Christmas music for you. And also geeking out on a bunch of home theater stuff. My Home Theater Geeks podcast is tomorrow, Monday, from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 to 5:30 Eastern. My guest tomorrow will be Tyle Hertzens, the editor of our sibling site, InnerFidelity.com. And you can follow me on Twitter at HTGeekScott. Thanks so much. Have a great geek week. Bye now.